As a dude who used to sell dope for a living, I know this to be the case. And statute of limitation, it was 10 years plus ago, so it means nothing at this point. Feds, you can't get me. I ain't gonna get dirked. But the reason why you find that there is a group of women, a large group of women, I'm not gonna say the majority because I don't know a majority, but I know there's a large enough group for it to matter who do have almost an addiction to the quote unquote bad boy. Now, when I say bad boy, I'm not talking Diddy. When I say bad boy, I'm talking about somebody who is genuinely a sociopath in some way, maybe some even psychopathic tendencies, somebody who is genuinely toxic. I'm not just saying somebody who says no because he means no and yes when he means yes. No, that's a bad guy. No, I'm not talking about somebody who hurts your feelings because they're honest. I'm not talking about somebody who's just ambitious and going after life and doing their thing, somebody who puts their life first. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a genuine bad, like as opposed to good, right? This person moves through life chaotically, dysfunctionally. There is a group of women in this world who are not only attracted to that, but are addicted to that. Now, I have to explain something because there is now also a large group of men who are so jaded off of life saying all women just want that. So either men start to pretend and replicate those toxic characteristics, or they just opt out completely and give up. So the first thing I want to say is, not all women are like that. And I'm living, point in case, right? My girl is a sweetheart and she is somebody who's absolutely mentally and emotionally stable. Okay? And that's going to tie into this entire message. But yes, there are those who are indeed in love with the quote unquote bad guy or the bad boy. And the reason for that is not what we think. We have been told that this is a part of our biology, right? There's a biological tendency and leaning for women towards bad men, or, the modern women just is in love with the bad man. But in truth, this is a symptom of trauma. It's a symptom of dysfunction and chaos within one's own childhood. When an individual has been used to the chemical combination, right? We talk about chemistry in a relationship. I always say, when somebody says, oh, we just didn't have chemistry, I say, what kind of chemistry did you have in a relationship where you felt connected? Because some of y'all, the chemistry that you're used to is cortisol and adrenaline, the stress hormones. So that may be very well be the chemistry that you're used to. You're used to a relationship that is filled with chaos and dysfunction and disorder. And so when you find yourself in a healthy relationship with an individual who is showing up in a functional way, that turns you off, or it is unfamiliar to your nervous system. So that actually becomes an opposite response within your body. A person who is peaceful, when your nervous system is used to dysfunction, chaos, or anxiety, is going to feel like unease. It sounds crazy. Like, that's why we talk about, this thing of, your comfort zone. It's not necessarily comfortable. It's just familiar. It's something that is tied to the familial base. Your upbringing, your childhood influenced what you were used to as far as emotional state. If you had a very anxious mother, you had a very anxious or angry father, you had a mother who was a retaliator, you had a mother who was withdrawn, or vice versa. If you had a father who had those characteristics, that's going to impact and influence what you are used to energetically. And so you will move through life in such a case. And again, as an ex-dope boy, I understand that there were very much those girls who were just attracted to me and had almost a sort of obsession about me because of the way that I was showing up in life, because I was dysfunctional. They were in love with the dysfunction. They were in love with the danger. And it was like, oh, there's a thrill, etc. And, Hollywood has sold us this idea that it's just about the thrill and the chase. No, it's about dysfunction. It's about trauma. This is a story of trauma. And if you're one of those women watching right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, you want a good dude, but you don't understand why you're just not attracted. He's just boring. And, this one brings excitement. Like, there's just something about him. The something is the fact that there is familiarity there. You are used to dysfunction and disorder. It doesn't mean you grew up, in the slums. It doesn't mean you grew up in the hood, around drive-bys every night. It may very well just be that your house was, even covertly dysfunctional. Like me, I grew up with two folks in a house, and people think, oh man, you grew up peaches and rainbows. It must have been, there's a lot that I'm very appreciative and I'm thankful of, but there were many aspects and factors, such as the suppression of real emotions, right? The suppression of even anger. You can't be angry. This was a fundamentalist Christian household. There was an image of perfection that I could not fulfill. And there was punishment for not fulfilling that perfection. And therefore, that would lead to me looking for outlets for that. I had to express that, and it became dark. It became a sinister aspect of me that would go out into the world and show one face, then come home and put on the mask. Survival mechanisms that we start to develop. And so when you find yourself in these dynamics where you are now, either the one in love with the bad boy, or you're engaging with somebody who seems to have these tendencies, the first thing I'm going to say is this, and I'm going to say this straight up to, again, the jaded ones out there, to say, if you find somebody who's not into who you are, this is a piece of game for everybody, actually. If you find somebody who is not into who you are, let it go completely. Don't even engage. Don't entertain. It's not your job to save them. Like, straight up. It's really not. Unless they're actually looking to heal and to change, which is something they have to start within themselves. And maybe you can be a part of that process. Unless that's the case, run from it, because some people are going to try to become the thing. You try to become the image of what this person you perceive that they desire, right? So it's like they didn't want you before. It's like if somebody had a criteria of you got to be working at this place, have this job, have this and this, but they didn't like you before that. Now you have the job, now you have this much money. They still don't love you for who you are. They're only loving you, quote unquote. They're only accepting you for what you have. Why would you want to be in relationship with that? Like, that's always been the confusion for me, is to say, okay, so you realize that there's a certain demographic of women who are into the quote unquote bad boy, right? Into the sociopathic individual. Why not just avoid? Why not just step out of that? Instead of complaining about it or trying to attach yourself to them and trying to convince them out of it, why not just go somewhere where, God forbid, you're accepted for who you are? So I'm just going to leave that as a sidebar, but we're going to get back to the point at hand, is that the woman who is in love with the bad boy, and again, it can be transitioned to man or woman, but it just seems to be more so of a tendency, or it's more of a conversation out in the ethers of the woman's draw to the bad boy. It's not all women. Like, yes, there is an aspect of the feminine that is drawn to masculine traits. That is natural. That is nature. That's the way it's supposed to be. Masculine and feminine energy, the yin and yang, like these two are perfect counterparts to one another. But what I'm talking about is the individual who sees chaos and is drawn to that chaos. The one who has a rejection complex, the one who was used to being abused and therefore they accept it as normal. This is what I'm talking about. That individual is a traumatized individual. That individual is expressing their trauma. They're living through the lens of their trauma. And so the only reason that they have those tendencies is simply because of their conditioning, their programming, their baseline. It's not because that's their actual nature and tendency, or it is their tendency, but it's not their nature. Nobody was born with that aspect of themselves. It had to be conditioned in. Their environment crafted them, and they have to make a decision. You have to make a decision to no longer move in such a way. You find yourself continuously attracting the very same type of dude, and you're blaming it on there just aren't any good dudes. No, that's a lie. That's a lie from the pit of Hades. You just continue to attract and to entertain what you attract and entertain based upon your own energy, based upon the way in which you are operating. You won't even see, you'll have a room full of guys who are peace-filled, 100 guys in a room, 99 are peace-filled, one of them is dysfunctional, and you can only see the dysfunctional one. You can only feel an attraction to the dysfunctional one. I swear to you, this is how it works. This is universal law. I don't make it up. I just disseminate the information. This is universal principle. You attract what you are. You have a vibration of fear, and so you attract to yourself the one who is resonating at the very same state. Because again, these individuals are living as traumatized individuals themselves. The bad boy is a traumatized individual who is expressing the unresolved pain within their life. That's why sometimes they seem so aggressive, or don't seem aggressive. They are aggressive, and they move through life in a certain way. Hypervigilance. They have a tendency of distrust. These are not healthy, normal aspects of the human experience. These are the conditions of being raised within an environment where a child had to create so many defense mechanisms, and now they're expressing those into adulthood, and we have glamorized and glorified them as a growingly dysfunctional, toxic society. We put them in the forefront. These become the ones who we idolize. We put these rappers or that hip hop culture on such a high pedestal that when a man is literally an executioner taking lives of kids, we're talking about free X, Y, and Z, free Lil Durk, free Thug, free this one, free that one. These individuals who are literally pushing the very same trauma, the very same chaos into our environment, we're praising them. That's because that already is existing within the society and the culture itself. We have to heal, bro. We have to. It's the only way. We have to heal. We have to heal. You can't get into that peaceful relationship, that healthy, functional relationship, unless you have healed these aspects of yourself. And if you are somebody who has, then again, completely distance yourself from these individuals until they make a decision to shift, to change, to heal. There's nothing you can do for that person. You will only find yourself more and more miserable. And yes, your ego might tell you, I want to save them. So they'll be different with me. This time it will be different. All this type of nonsense. No, it won't be different with you. It's going to be the exact same. He was putting the Beats by Dre on him before you. He's going to put the Beats by Dre on you after. It's going to be the exact same. He was cheating on her before he's going to cheat on you. It's going to be the exact same. But this is a symptom of trauma. And this is something I just had to get into because, we hear these conversations and oftentimes they're not nuanced enough. It's just like, well, women just love bad boys, and so I have to be a bad boy. And then women are like, he's just boring. I don't understand why I'm not attracted, blah, blah, blah. Or some even try to deny that they have these attractions. And I say, if you do, don't lie about it. You ain't got to lie to yourself because you're stopping yourself from your own healing. You keep attracting them. So obviously there's something going on there. There's some level of resonance there. It's not a slight to say you're a bad person. It's not a slight to say you're shameful. It's just to say that there are aspects of you. Most of you is operating from a place of trained dysfunction. And so that's the familiar. And in order to change this dynamic, you must heal. And if you're on your healing process, then step away from relationships, or step away from those relationship dynamics. It's not your job to change any damn body, period.
I used to be afraid of the dark, place unknown like a hardening heart. I used to see my life in the bar. Now the kids unchained, every shackle is lost. 2 steps in the moonlight, 2 step in the daytime. You just know when it feel right. You got a feeling the time's not. See you through those shades that I just threw on. Through my lenses, you just can't do no wrong. I fell in love with myself again. I fell in love with myself. I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night. I can see